Hello, I'm Ryan Reyes.
And I'm Dominic Angel.
And I'm Ricky Macias.
And together we are
Un Poquito.
Un Poquito podcast, exploring Latino culture little by little.
Hell yeah. Thanks for being here, everybody. Just a reminder, if you guys don't already know, May 29th, this Monday, Memorial Day, we're having Don't Fly Comedy Night at PDA Space in Altadena, where tickets are $10 right now for a live show, or you can live stream it for $5. All the links are in the description. Thanks for being here. Today is very exciting. We've been talking, having a good time with them so far. Please, we're gonna welcome Saul Trujillo.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me. Un poquito.
Thanks so much for being here. This is an exciting time. We haven't really interacted that much outside of like a handful of shows, but I remember the first time that I saw you was at Chatterbox, and I think, were you living in Texas for a minute?
No, I'm not from Texas. I'm from Northern California. I always mention that because the haircut, people assume Texas. People assume Houston. They go like, "You're from Houston, Texas." I go, "No, man, I'm from Stockton, California." All right. This is a different. It's an agricultural mullet. Right?
It's an agricultural. This
Protect
spans.
the neck from the burn. You know?
Yeah, because my uncle had a mullet growing up, and my uncle was like the coolest guy ever. It was like my favorite Theo. He had a Camaro and like a 22. This guy has a gun and a car that barely starts. This guy rules.
Is your uncle Mario Lopez?
Martin. My uncle Martin, dude, that guy ruled. So like I remember that haircut, and I was like, I'm gonna get me one of those and I never had the courage up until like 7 years ago.
I've been thinking about getting a mullet. My hair naturally grows into a mullet when I start
does,
growing
a
it
little
out.
bit.
And I've been I had a mullet for a minute last year between podcasts, but here's the problem was that I gave myself a haircut and I was trying to cut like a wolf cut. And I just overcut it and it turned into a mullet, so I just had to like rock
The
a
fact
mullet
that
for a minute.
you even had the courage to give yourself a haircut, I can't even conceptualize that right there. Unless you're gonna shave your head crazy style, but is that what you did?
I ended up having to.
That wasn't the intention. You know what I mean? Like if that was Plan B, that's fine. You're like, I was going for something and I don't like it.
To be honest, once you know the rules, it kind of isn't that hard. The back is a struggle. Like I cut my own hair.
Okay, so that's good to know. Like it just for me, it can't even like I'm dumb. I wouldn't even know I don't know the rules to anything as far as cutting your hair.
I know the two things that I had to remember when I was cutting my own hair is on the top, the back is always longer than the front, and then as far as like actually cutting the hair, so I took like a razor with like a high what do you call it, the comb thing, what are those called, a high gauge, like an 8, and I just like shaved the side completely, and then to wither it down so it kind of faded inward. I started at the top. I picked out how long I wanted it at the very front top of my head, and then I kind of just used that to scale layers downward.
I would just get a school scissors.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean
Not even clean ones.
That's what I used to cut it down afterwards.
I just want to take a second to announce that we got a new sponsor. Please, everybody, thank you to Fantastic Sam's for.
I don't cut my own hair. Never have. I have really long hair, so I cut my hair like once a year or every 2 years now. But I went to a salon one time, got it cut. I just winged it.
Yeah.
A salon in my city. Walked in. I was like, I'm a dude. Let's do this. And the first time I got a haircut from this chick, it came out pretty good. So I come back like a year and a half later. I waited a long time, and I was like, this chick, she did it good a year and a half ago.
She doesn't even remember who you are.
She barely remembers me.
Of course.
Barely. Of course. I'm an idiot. I go back to her. She's like, oh, hey. And I was like, let's do it again. And I told her like shoulder length, right?
Yeah.
Like just below my shoulders. And she kept trying to fix it up.
No.
And then like I ended up with like my hair like right up here.
You had a Dora the
I
Explorer.
had the Dora the Explorer cut. Like,
¿Dónde está mi pelo? Oh no!
and she's like, "You can come back tomorrow so we can fix it." And I was like, "Absolutely not."
What do you fix? What? Here to
fix
keep
what?
it going up?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
keep
I
it
was
going
like,
up.
no. Yeah, I was like, I don't know what she's thinking, but
Oh my
we're
God!
not putting extensions in.
You
that's
did
for
such
sure.
a good job 400 days ago. Why wouldn't you do the same thing?
400 Days of Dora.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
That part sucks. You probably look like a knight or like a squire.
I look like Farquaad.
That's phenomenal. Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
But you said Fantastic. Who's sponsored by Fantastic? I live right
Fantastic.
by one, and I don't have the courage to walk in.
In Fantastic Sam's.
I keep looking by. It's the same tiny white woman. I'm like, I don't know. I have a guy. I have a gay Cuban guy named Ernesto. He
Okay.
rules, man. He like fucking cut and shampoo for like $30
That's cool.
in Hollywood. Yeah.
I don't know why that reminded me of the last like official haircut I got that wasn't myself was like 2 years ago, like 4 haircuts ago. And it was when I was like consistently dyeing my hair, and I walk into this place, and I don't speak any Spanish, and I walk into this like old timey barbershop, like the kind where they're all watching, like unless someone's actively getting a haircut, everyone's just in the corner watching like sports.
Yeah.
And I walk in with like my hair in a man bun, and it's bright pink, and they all look at me, and they're all like muttering to themselves, like, "Who's gonna cut this fool's hair?" And then it's all in Spanish, but I get the vibe.
You can sense it,
Right?
You
Like
can sense
you
it.
you learn enough Spanish to know when people are talking shit.
Yeah.
And then I just see the oldest guy there walk in the back, and out of nowhere, like, I don't mean this in a mean way, but the most flamboyant gay man comes out, and they have him cut my hair.
But that's his moment. It was like the Magnificent
Yeah,
Seven.
it's like he's never been allowed to cut hair before, but he's the only one they can think of to handle me.
Who's gonna take this? Get Enrique. they hit a
Kicks
button.
open swinging doors.
Release the Cuban.
He's in the back warming up like a pitcher. He's just cutting. It's like, oh, you guys got any me? All right, I'm coming. Oh man. That's why I don't have the courage. If I didn't know Spanish all the way, I wouldn't have the courage to walk into anything Latin. It'd be all Asian salons. Because if they're gonna talk shit, I don't want it to be like grasping pieces of like, oh, I know what that word means, and that's not nice. You know what I mean?
That's pretty smart. Choosing your discrimination. Like,
Yeah. I prefer you. I don't know,
You know
a
what's gonna
word you're
happen.
saying. You're gonna talk shit. I don't want to know any of it. I just want you to go, oh, sweetheart, and keep calling me sweetie. When you go back into your language, you're just talking shit the whole time. But whatever. But I
So-
know Spanish, so I go to Ernesto.
I remember the first time I saw Saul. Do you go? Is it Saul or Saul?
Saúl.
Okay, cool. Saul. See, I'm getting. I know one word. Saul. No, but it was funny because it was at Chatterbox. It was like years ago, and I were you away for a while and then came to LA?
When
or-
the first set I did at Chatterbox, I was still living in Northern California.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's what it was. Because it was I'm pretty sure it was at an open mic, and like it was one of those things. Every once in a while, a comedian will come into Chatterbox, and then Steve will like announce that they're there. Like, oh, you're gonna love this fool. Like, he's great. And then that happened. Like, oh, it was like Steve was like, so lucky to have him. He's in town. He's a fucking crusher. You're gonna have Saul Trujillo, and like you walked in, and I was like, this fool looks like he drove the Greyhound bus to get here. Like,
Most likely did. Most likely did. I look Greyhoundy a little bit.
yeah, you had a polo at the time. It was like it looked like you just straight up got off the like off your shift.
That's my vibe. That's my vibe. Yeah. I get it.
But dude, it was honestly, it was like it's one of those things where it's like amazing set. Like it was like, and then now it's like whenever you pop up, whenever you do Chatterbox, I always like make sure to go see you, or whenever like you're doing a show that I can catch, it's always like, oh shit, it's always gonna be there. What's
It's my
you got?
favorite room.
Yeah.
Legitimately my favorite room.
It's a great room.
It's like it's a dive bar on top of like Latin people being there on top of like they're down. And it's just has all the elements to be my favorite room.
There's so many like overlapping circles.
yeah.
Because somebody said like I forgot who I was talking to about this the other day, but it was like it's working class, it's Latinos, there's room for like being like edgy or raunchy,
Yes.
but also not too much where you're just like you can't just go up there and say racist shit.
No.
You have to be funny.
There's got to be satire behind what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like they like a level of like edginess, but also very like progressive stuff flies there too. Alt stuff flies there too. It's
It
like
just has to be good.
yeah.
That's really, at the end of the day, it has to be good, funny, well thought out shit. I'm not gonna say last night, I'm not gonna name names, but he was like a legend that I grew up watching.
Chris D'Elia.
Fuck no. He was already in the negative by being a rich boy, so I already hated him before all that. Now and that's like a cherry on top. I'm like, that's right, that's right. Yeah, I already wasn't a fan. I'm like, oh, your dad's a Hollywood producer. You're so successful. Ugh. Tu madre way. But it was this guy. I'm not gonna name names because I still have respect for him. But he was doing all this just jokes from like 15 years ago, and like watching the audience now because he hasn't updated his set. They're like, these are impressions from a long time ago. Why is he still doing them? And then just everybody confused and like I'm all sad by the stairs because I'm hosting the show, and then you just hear murmurs. I'm like, that wasn't funny. That was racist. It's like, fuck, man. I used to watch this guy as a kid.
That's the thing that sucks too. Yeah, that sucks when like there's somebody that you looked up to and you kind of see them like stagnate, or because it's weird because it's like the people. What's the saying? Like the crowds didn't change, the people or the times just changed, or something like that. Because it's like those people were just doing what was popular at the time.
Yeah.
And they were really good at it. But then when stuff updates and like tastes change and like we want new styles of humor, and for them to be doing the same thing is like, oh.
Yeah, they're
like,
frozen in time, like literally.
Yeah, man. And you have to progress with the times. You have to keep figuring out how you're going to be funny, but today.
Yeah, even if it's like wrong.
Yes.
Like at least be having the same conversation everyone's having. Like
that's why I think it's crazy that like there's still so much I guess it's kind of died down, like the complaining about wokeness or like cancel culture or left like people being too sensitive, because those you just did a dirty show recently, right? Or
I'm
gonna
do a dirty show Wednesday, dirty at 10:30.
Oh, so when this
nice.
episode drops, Saul will be at is that the Comedy Store?
It's at the Comedy Store.
Dirty
show.
But yeah, I mean, there are still shows that are super successful that and have great comics that are like where you can be like, you know, raunchy or edgy or say whatever you want. Even roast battle, like there's still so much success in these circuits where it's like it's not that people are not letting you say what you want to say. It's like you're just not being funny.
No. And it's whether you're not being funny on purpose or you just don't know how to be funny yet. But it's like learn how to be funny before you start skating on the edge of things.
Yeah.
You know, like being an edgelord at front. Then if you're a new comic and all you do is edgelord jokes and bomb, it's like that's all you're going to be known for.
Oh,
Instead
yeah.
of just being unfunny.
Yeah,
You're going
we
to be known, the guy that says the N-word. You're like, all right, where the fuck was that? You did that at an open mic and you paid $5 for that. That was weird.
You paid $5 to say the N-word.
That was fucking
That
weird.
reminds me of like the one time I accidentally talked someone out of trying comedy.
You're doing the Lord's work, right?
It was at Chatterbox. It was on open mic night, and someone comes up to me who's come to the mic before, or no, he's from the area. He's just never, and he's been to the bar, but he never like came to the mic before. So he comes, and we know each other from somewhere else. And he's like, I've been thinking about going up. And I'm like, go for it, dude. Like, open mics are very accessible. And then he says something like, well, what's the kind of crowd there? You know what I mean? Like, can I do edgy stuff? And I immediately knew what he meant, but I was like, I mean, yeah, like, as long as you're funny, you'll find an audience. But I'll be honest and be like, if you just say, like, racist shit, they'll probably boo you or not respond. And he goes, oh. And I was like, but I mean, also, if it is funny enough, like, you'll find your audience. And then that was the second part. I was like,
It's not worth it. Like, if I can't say the N-word without repercussion, like, with no repercussions,
right? Like,
then
his argument was like, Oh, I don't actually care about being funny. I just want to get on stage and say the N-word.
And good edgy comics don't necessarily know what they're writing is edgy. They just think they're writing funny, right? The ones that like this is a funny joke and it's funny, but then they don't start getting booked on shows like, oh, you're too edgy. It's kind of weird because you don't just go, oh, I'm gonna write edgy stuff. You sort of write what you think is funny.
Right,
and it ends up just being edgy, and you're just going, oh, all right, I guess I'm an edgy comic.
Yeah.
You don't just strive to do edgy shit.
Yeah, I think
accidentally do that.
That's a really good point because I think a lot of the people that are like big in like the edgy humor is like that's just the life that they live, whether it's through philosophy, whether it's through like shit that they read and like the stuff that they like think about, because like we'll hear people talk in like podcasts and stuff and it's like they actually care deep, like who's a good like edgy like Doug Stanhope, who I would consider is like kind of edgy.
Yeah.
But he's like steeped in politics, like that fool like thinks hard about like philosophy and politics and stuff. And he's very like anti-establishment, but that comes from somewhere. And that also comes from him being an alcoholic and like, and the kind of like drugs and lifestyle and the people that he surrounds himself with. But it's like, it's all steeped in this like understanding of like his views, like his.
It's interesting because sometimes like I've had this conversation before in different ways with comics. Is like sometimes what you like and what you respect isn't what you are as a comic.
Exactly.
Like your voice is sometimes completely different than your favorite stuff, and you have to have the self-esteem to choose yourself instead of trying to pretend to be someone else.
Self-esteem and self-awareness.
Yes.
Right. That's how people fall into the. That's how people fall into the circle of like the comedian's voice, where they're just sounding like how they think they're supposed to sound on stage, and it, ironically, even if the writing is good, takes away from the bit because it doesn't sound genuine, because they're not talking like they sound.
Yeah, your voice is just your voice.
Yes.
Like, the thing about that is that some people have the nervousness on stage. Like that starts to go away more and more. Yeah. Like sometimes I won't even prep. Like I will park, I'll smoke a joint, and people think I'm preparing when I'm just literally, I'm like, I got a song stuck in my head or something, and then I'll go on stage and I'll talk about the song that's stuck in my head, and then I'll just go into bits because it's just my voice. Just you're gonna sound like you
That's
regardless of. I'm gonna talk to these people. That's all I'm doing, and that's when like, oh, I have found my voice.
Yeah,
it sort of just comes. Like I don't really mentally prepare for a lot unless I'm trying new stuff. If I'm just doing my 30, I'm just like, I know what I gotta do. I gotta go up there and do it.
Because I feel like I'm getting there to the point where, like, there's even things I talk about that I'm embarrassed about. So like, oh, I'll just be embarrassed about it on stage. Like, be that person that's embarrassed because people are not to try to relate to people, but people will relate to that honest feeling of like whatever you are.
It's funny because I'm kind of the same way where I'll talk about things that are, it's like, it's always the thing of like, I'm not embarrassed to talk about these things on stage. The only thing that's embarrassing is when it doesn't get a laugh. Like, I'm like, no, don't feel sorry for me. Like we should all be in on the joke. But I guess it's always like, cause I talk more about like a lot of personal stuff and like, not like in like a Chris Gethard kind of way talking about depression, but I will just talk about like being depressed or like being. There are right now a lot of the stuff that I'm working on, all the material I'm working on, kind of paints me as like a pitiful person.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Okay.
But the thing is like I'm going up there, I'm trying to make it relatable, and that's the thing is like I think I get a lot of. I have a real issue with smiling on stage where I just do everything straight faced. And I think because of that, people think that like I'm like, they have a reason to pity me, I guess. Like they feel sorry for me when I'm talking about these things. I'm like, no, this is actually funny, guys. Like
it can be difficult to find. And you know, like, but the deadpan look has been a thing forever. You know, like the not having to smile on stage. That talking about depression, talking about when it can be tricky. It really can, because most people are depressed.
Yeah.
So I do relate to that, and now I'm bummed out about it. You know, it's like so you got to have something that pops hard, but it's just I've wanted to talk about stuff that has made me depressed in the past, and I'm trying to break past like because when I first started comedy, I still do a lot of self-deprecating, a lot of talking about my weight and stuff like that. So I find that it's more successful because it's easier to make fun of a fat person, like back when I first started.
Right.
But now you're getting more ahs with the fat jokes. Now there's more of the energy of like.
Why? Because you're fat.
What? Lizzo has created pretty good this positive thing about being the shape that you are. It's good and everything like so. If you're gonna do a fat joke, it better not be a hack fat joke.
Yeah,
Right.
It better
that's
be
true.
something personal and clever and funny, and better have extra meaning behind that fat. Because you can't just go, "I'm fat, everybody." Like there has to be intertwined with the story, with jokes. You can't just go up there. Like when I first started, because my plan out there was talking about I did all these self-deprecating fat jokes so that I could talk about whatever I wanted. Like I just
Like,
shit
get it
on
out of the
myself.
way.
I
Yeah.
just 8-miled myself. So now I'm gonna talk about whatever the fuck I want. Now people are like, "Oh, he could talk about what he wants." He's just
You ate. You ate my.
You ate You ate all the
8
miles
miles. I ate all the miles. Ate as many miles as I could.
and walked 0 miles.
But what is bothering now is like I'm trying to lose weight, and then you got a lot of people going, "Don't lose too much weight, because then you won't be funny anymore."
What?
So, yeah, you lose
That
all-
stuff is. I mean,
It's kind of I kind of understand what they mean, but
I understand that point, but I feel like that comes from a time when that was if you were different, then that became your style or your personality. Like John Panette, like he has a fucking hour and a half just
Hour and a
talking
half.
about food and like being fat. If he lost weight, then it's like, well, you can't do. You're the fat comic now. You're not the fat comic anymore.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? But like how you're saying, it's like no, you're. I mean, I understand the people's points, but it's like, no, you're always going to be funny, and like you'll just change what you talk about now.
yeah,
you know
and
your
that's
joke.
exciting.
I also, I was so pissed because have you ever done the Hollywood Hooters open mic?
No.
There's a Hooters that has I don't know if it's
Well,
still
there
around.
was. It shut down.
Okay, it shut down.
But not the mic, like the entire franchise is struggling.
You said it's sad.
Oh.
Oh, the entire franchise is struggling during the woke era. What do you say?
Yeah, like Hooters.
Hooters
shut
is
down.
doing bad. Oh no!
They were letting a mic run, and that means they're doing bad. That's crazy.
I know, for real. It's so crazy for a franchise like operation to allow an open mic to
Yeah.
be, like doing
You
an
got to
open
tell
mic.
the comics to buy wings. All right, they got to buy more wings if you want to keep this mic.
Yeah.
Say 5 wing minimum. It's like fuck. All right.
But there was this comic there who I was so pissed because I bombed when I went up. You know when you go to an open mic, a new open mic that you've never been to before, and so like instead of working on new stuff, like instead of working on the stuff that you're actually trying to work on, you're like, I'm gonna flex on these fools,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do my best material, like so that they know like I'm a real comic. And then you go up and nobody knows you, so you just bomb anyway. That shit happened to me. I got off the stage. I was like, fuck everybody here. The guy after me was one of the hosts, and his whole set was about how he used to have alopecia. And this whole set was all jokes about how he used to have a big bald spot. He had alopecia. And like it was fucking crushing, and I was so pissed because this guy looked like Ricky when he was telling those jokes.
Oh.
Like he had like the longest fucking hair, but he was like, "Just imagine me bald," and everybody was like eating it up.
Well,
All-
that's chicken wing humor, dog. You can't go up there and talk about depression.
Chicken wing humor.
Talk about something that means something. This guy this fake used to have alopecia. There's no way.
It was crazy, but all that to say, you can still tell jokes like
No,
about
I know.
anything.
I know. It's just it is somebody my age. It's somebody third. Don't lose your. I was like, all right,
Right.
all right.
Don't change, you'll lose everything. It's more about them.
I like the worst millennial ever. Like I like these Gen Zers. I actually do. They're like a lot of them are minimalists and like I like a lot of them are a lot of Gen Zers are like they like get complaints from like my people my age that they're all sensitive. I'm like as they probably should be. The world sucks.
I see a lot of videos about how like why is Gen Z so jaded, and they're like, well, we're inheriting a world that's about to end.
Yeah, hey, you're welcome. Then none of you are saying sorry or nothing. Like, all right, well, whatever, it's fine.
You guys aren't excited about child labor? Come on.
The robots taking over and shit. Social Security being done. Sorry, guys.
Hey everybody, we want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Legacy Teas and Spices, which is a company run by our mom, Angel Mesco, who's here with us today.
Hey guys.
Normally me and Ryan give you the spiel, but today we're going to let my mom tell you about her teas, so why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention we have several medicinal teas in stock. A lot of people have been asking, and so I just wanted to mention we have an immune system to help boost your immune system. We have a stress-free tea. We have a good night tea that helps with sleep. We have turmeric ginger that helps with inflammation. We have a detox that's a cleansing tea. We have a digestive aid. We're all trying to get healthy right now, and with a proper diet and some exercise, these teas can really help you out. We have different sizes, and today we're holding up, this is like a starter size. It's a $12.95, but with your code you get the discount, and this can give you about 12 servings, give or take, depending on how much you use. But this is all artisan, hand blended by myself, and yeah, we have many flavors. Check out our website. Using UP23 at checkout so that we know you came from watching Un Poquito podcast. It gets them 23% off their entire purchase online at legacyteasandspices.com. All right, thanks you guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks you guys.
So did you start comedy in Stockton? Is there a scene out there?
There's a scene now. But when I first started, I didn't start I started in Sacramento. I had to drive 45 minutes north at this comedy club in old Sacramento called Laughs Unlimited. Yeah, right next to a taffy shop.
Taffy?
Yeah. It's one of those good road rooms when you're first starting out. You want to be a young headliner. It doesn't pay very much. The condo is terrible, but it's home. You know,
Right.
It's for me. It is. Every time I go back, I haven't visited the club in a while, but when I do go back, it feels like home. Yeah, and it's now Stockton has like a rising scene where if I go back, I get offered stage time if I want to, like any night if I wanted to, and they're about to open up a club where I'm from too. They're like another comedy club, so it's gonna be fun. Like my one of my best friends is doing it.
So you get that hometown hero status?
I hope so. I want to get famous enough to where I'm on the murals on the side of a liquor store like I just died. I want the Kobe treatment, but in Stockton. And then I was out there for like 9 years. So like I stayed at my mom's in Stockton, and then I would go to San Francisco, Sacramento. It's all centralized.
Right.
So you could go to Fresno. Fresno's an hour and a half one way, and then San Francisco is an hour and a half the other, and then Sacramento's 45 minutes the other. So I would just go into like I dipped my toe in every different scene I could.
I think there's something really cool about, like, one of the benefits that I've seen about, because we started in like the Los Angeles scene, you know. Being in Los Angeles is like, if you do it right, you can get good really quick.
That's what I figured. A lot of these cats come to Los Angeles from their transplants, and they complain about not getting good in Los Angeles. I was like, but are you getting out of like Los Angeles? Are you going inland? Are you going to Long Beach? Are you going to where where the stage time is at?
Right.
And they go, oh no, I'm just, I can understand the traffic, but how much do you want it? You know?
Yeah, because there's a lot of small. That's the good thing too. Is like there's a lot of small scenes outside of LA, and then like the best room, Chatterbox is outside of Los Angeles.
Yep.
But it's so close that you can still get like work in that LA stage time, and like just the fact that we're so close is like. I mean, I'm sure it's even more competitive in places like New York, but it's like everybody good comes to one of these cities. So it's like if you're going to be here and you want to get good, you have to be able to compete with some of the best people in the country.
This is kind of dumb, but if you haven't done comedy at all and you're like, I want to move to Los Angeles, I'd say move to Los Angeles adjacent, like Orange County, and then, or wherever here, and then get good here.
Yeah.
You're still close to LA. Get good here for a couple years, and then dip your toe into
That's
LA.
kind of what some of us. That's what I did a lot. Like I stayed in the San Gabriel Valley. I touched LA once in a while. I would go to Long Beach. I would go all the way to Santa Ana.
Yeah.
A dive bar in Santa Ana to do mics and shows, and that was sketch. But if you can make people in a sketchy ass dive bar laugh, and then go to Long Beach and the artsy cafe and make people laugh, like
That's the right idea. How long have you been doing stand up?
Like now, like 10 years.
There you fucking at you.
Yeah.
Like 7 years. Right?
think-
8, 7 or 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
He did like this many.
I started in 2016 during the presidential election. That's how I remember. During the
like
Trump.
it was yesterday.
Yeah. Because it was the first Trump election.
You'll
So
never
that's how I
forget that.
remember it.
You're like, I gotta talk about this.
I don't think I ever did.
No, I'm fucking with you. It's just a funny,
I know
like,
the country needs me.
as soon as Trump was in office, I gotta start stand up. This is bullshit.
So is anyone else depressed?
That's how long it's been, huh? It's
crazy.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Feels like it was just yesterday that he was just running for the presidency. It's all a blur, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's nuts. But no, yeah, definitely come out. And you guys are frequenting LA now?
I'm coming out more and more. It's right now just the position that I'm in is a little precarious where I'm working a lot, so I'm not going up, but that's what we're working towards is like being able to do shows and do more mics. It's funny because when I first started, I was doing mics and shows way more than I'm doing now, but I feel like I'm so much better now. Like I perform so infrequent, but whenever I do get shows, I'm like I haven't had a bad set in such a long time. Where it's like
You're in a weird position where you're gonna have to start making decisions.
right, yeah. I actually wanted to talk to you about that. Can you? No, actually, I want to know your experience on that because it's like I feel like you're in that position, or you've just had that decision to make where it's like when do you start like truly focusing on comedy?
It's happening now. You know, I work at the Comedy Store,
Yeah.
but I'm there like once, twice a week. You know, I had 2 improv spots last night, so I told them I just wasn't gonna show up. I was like, hey, I can't. And they were like, that's fine. You got to do comedy.
Right.
But that's a different type of day job. I was working at a coffee shop for a while, and I had to quit because I can't go. I was working 5:30 to 2:30, and then having to go do mics and then do shows. And I was like, I gotta cut this out of my life, man. This is too much. It's fucking with my stage time. I want to be on stage more. I'll be broke.
Right.
I won't be able to fucking do the things I want to be able to do, but I'll be happier. And it's what happened. I was happier, but I don't have a...
The sign fell.
Jesus, did I make a good decision? It ends up working out, man, because
Just leave it.
you live a weird comedy lifestyle where you put yourself out there and you're getting on stage more. Money just sort of sometimes money just comes at you like
Right.
in weird places. And then you just it's kind of weird. Like now, I'm pretty close to maybe wanting to quit the store, but not quite yet. I'm gonna give it more time. But yours is a decision of like a day job, man. That's just like you really write down pros. I hate this hack as it is, pros, cons. And then whatever outweighs the other, you make the decision from there.
Yeah, that's where it's coming to. I mean, that's kind of right now where my headspace is. Because we just did our first Don't Fly comedy show, May 29th. Tickets are in the description. But we had our first show in, March? And it was such a good night. We had so much fun. And like at the end of the show, I was like, I talked to all of these guys. I was like, I got to figure out how to do this like all the time. Because it really was like I haven't been able to do comedy like that or like be around comedy in that way. Even though like we do Chatterbox and like I'm there most weeks. You're there more often than I am. Obviously, you're a producer, but like having a night like that and like just being around comedy and like have it be from the podcast, it was like I got to figure it out. Like that's where my mind is right now. Is like and. Of just like, getting to do this all the time. And so
you can create that though. Like it depends on what you want to do. Like you want to grind it out on the road, or do you want? I feel like you have a pretty good. You've already produced a show. Maybe get into that. Help producing on top of like that, and then that getting you stage time elsewhere. Maybe getting a sponsorship for this podcast, shit like that.
Fantastic, Sams. Thank you.
Thank you for the haircuts. It's just difficult. Like I got a couple podcasts. Like you have a podcast here. I got I got into commercial acting, something
Oh, really?
I don't want to do, but you can do, and because everybody's in commercials. I got just different shit that I kind of need that feels like it would like I'm. At first, it felt like I'm just putting money into this and it's not coming back. Now it's starting to come back a little bit. You're like, oh, I get why I'll put all the work in, but you just have to make that decision, you know.
How long have you been doing comedy?
13
Yeah.
13 years. Yeah. Like 9 of it in Northern California, and then like the rest of it out here. But like the rest of it was like COVID.
Yeah.
That was wild. That was a wild time in the
Yeah, you moved here right before COVID, huh?
a year before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I didn't stop though. I got COVID twice. The LA scene was a weird hypocrite because it was like half the LA scene was like, no, everybody don't go out. Yeah, it's serious. It's a sickness, which completely understand. And then the other ones were the ones that were like agreeing with them, but also being hypocrites and still going to the mics.
Right.
It's like, wait a minute, I saw you online talking a lot of shit, and you're out here on this rooftop. Okay, I see it. Okay.
It was such a weird thing to watch because you'd see friends, like one of them would be like, I'm fine. Everyone around me is fine. The other one would be like, my grandma just died, dude.
And the guy who's just like, I'm fine. Like, don't bring up your grandma, man. Come on. Bring up
Why
your
you gotta
wants
be
to hear
down?
Why you gotta be a downer? It's like, I don't know, because it's serious. Like, all right.
It was. There's
Turned
okay,
into
so
a bit.
it's a running thing on this podcast that I'm probably autistic, but there's like every so often there will be times where like I'm reminded of the possibility where it's like I'm so blown away by like people being hypocrites, like people like posturing.
yeah.
No, just like
trains.
I'm so fascinated by trains. No, but it's like I do that. That's like a blind spot that I have where I take a lot of what people tell me at face value. So like when I see people posting online and then I like they're tagged in like a picture of them being like at an open mic, like at Echo Park. I'm like you what's going on here?
This bastion of truth is a hypocrite.
Your online presence is very much different from the way you are in real life. It's very weird.
I'm over here just telling the truth to everybody. Jesus Christ!
You're bad at being LA, man.
I know. I can
Apparently.
exactly, dude. And I'm from here. Like,
Yeah, all the LA people are bad at being LA.
Funny, huh?
you know,
No, like because what they call LA, it's like don't call it that. They're like being fake or whatever. Like that's a thing created by transplants that are being fake around each other in LA. It's usually never the locals.
Yeah.
that's so funny. Yeah, that's what I was gonna
from
say.
like Nebraska.
Yeah, like fucking playing chismosos on the side, going like, "That's so LA." It's like, shut
Yeah.
up. No, it's not.
Everybody that comes here is like, oh, everybody around here is so fake and so like will they'll stab your back in a second. And it's like that's all you people.
Yeah,
Come in here.
white people from Missouri fucking whispering to the side.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, people like Chris Estrada and Felicia Folks and yourselves are
Yeah.
just like, "No, we're just chilling. We're from here. What are you talking about?"
I'm just trying to get by.
I'm just trying to get.
All the shit where you're telling secrets at, I grew up there. I don't know if you know that. This is a home game for me.
I'm trying to leave my warehouse job. Too.
Yeah.
Literally, we're all just trying to get out of blue collar jobs.
Yeah.
That's so crazy that like Chris was working the warehouse job up until they started shooting this fool.
It's crazy, but then you look at the person he is, and you go, that makes sense. And he's such a chill dude. He's such a like whatever guy. Even his stand up is, I mean, he's probably one of the best comedians in the country.
Yeah.
And then but it's like some can be mean, it can be rough, but it's like funny as fuck. And then on the side, he's like, "No, man, I'm just chilling." I'm like, this guy rules, man.
Yeah, he's just a cool dude. I remember he was one of the first people that like I like really looked up to in comedy because it was like, oh, he's Mexican, but he's also like he's from South Central, so like he's more LA than I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm from a suburb outside of LA.
You're still LA.
Yeah, right. But
still
I just mean like he's.
I know what you're
But all that to say, like he's into punk music. He's like he talks about the stuff that like I would talk about, too, or like the stuff that I care about. And so like, but he's like every time I would see him on a show or like we do a show together, he'd be like, "Oh, what's up, man?" Like he always like made a point to say hi, which is like to think, oh, he's making a point to say hi. He's like, no, he's just a nice guy. Like,
Yeah.
That's just how people are. Like,
Come here, Dominic. Take a picture, a selfie with me to let people know I said hello.
Right,
It's
right,
like,
exactly.
No, he was probably like, no pic. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, like I think the last time we ran into him was completely random, but he was like asking how our parents and grandparents were.
Yeah.
Like, he's very nice.
Yeah.
Genuine person.
It was one of the nicest conversations. We were eating. We're after the Laugh Factory in Long Beach. He and I just had a great conversation about family while eating burritos. I was just like, this guy rules. This guy's the best.
Yeah, he's one of the people. I hear this a lot talking about from like other comics and particularly with like Latino comics, but even outside, it's always cool to see when like a Latino comic is respected by people outside of like the Latino community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like everybody is like, there's every so often somebody gets a big hit, somebody gets an opportunity and it takes off, and like everyone's like, good for that guy, like good for that person, like
Yeah.
And I think Chris is one of those where when it happened, everybody was like stoked, like he deserves it.
Well, it's talent on top of being a good person, a nice person. I mean, it's not hard to root for. You know,
Yeah.
It's a good thing to root for. And the best part is he just so happens to be Mexican. He's just a talented guy.
Right.
The cherry on top is the fact that we're such a race, a culture that we rah for anybody Latin. Like, I know that's how I am. Like, I'm right now for whatever. I'm like listening to like hella Latino rap, like a lot of dudes out of Texas. I'm like, these guys. There's this dude, that Mexican OT. I'm like obsessed with him right now. So like anything right now Mexican, I'm like real rah about. But they just have to be super talented. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not just respecting any. If you're Mexican and you're a comedian, I was like, are you funny? I'm not just gonna go behind you because you're Mexican. You gotta be funny on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be good, because it's so hard. I mean, I don't know if you see things this way, but I feel like it's opening up a lot more in recent times. So it's like it's definitely worth addressing that or seeing through that lens. But it's like it is difficult to be seen seen as not Latino, like when you go up and do stand up, or when like just in anything, it's like it's always kind of pigeonholed, or like you're seen as that first. So whatever you do is like, oh, this isn't relatable to the wider audience.
Yeah.
So it is cool. I'm the same way where it's like I'll be supportive of somebody for being Latino if they're good.
Yeah, they have to be good first and foremost. Yeah, and that you're talking about to a more broader audience. It's like I used to think more like that, but now it's like I'm talking more about Latin humor now, but not like doing Latin voices and that.
Right.
But it's like more of a TED talk on top of being funny.
Yeah.
Because my wife, I'm in an interracial relationship, so like I talk about, it's been done since the dawn of time, like interracial relationship humor. But it's like, how am I gonna not make this as generalized and more about myself? Yeah. But no, man, stand-up's fun right now. I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, I love it.
It's because it's hard for me right now because the Lakers are in the playoffs, and so like the audiences have been light. So you got to work.
They've been light, and they've been a little
light
sad
all over LA,
and they've been a little sad about.
They've
the
been
games.
a little sad about the games. So it's like, oh, I really got to dance for these 7 people.
And the funny thing is, whenever I don't watch sports, so like that's something that's so funny to me to be aware of, because I wouldn't be aware of that.
Yeah.
But it is like when you go up at mics or when you go up at shows or go to shows where it's like there was just a game and the Lakers lost.
Yeah.
And it's like, people do get seriously bummed. Like it bothers, like it ruins their whole night.
Yeah.
And it's and you can't even bring it up. You just have to be good. Because
Yeah.
I feel like every time I see it get brought up by somebody tries to make light of the Dodgers losing, and like I've seen people in the crowd be like,
That's what I love. That's why I say comedy's fun right now. 'Cause I'm a masochist for that. Like, I love it. Like I see a comic do that, and I go, "Why'd you do that, man? That's not how I'd have done that." It's like watching comedians that like I'm like, I know this comic's good. He's gonna do great, but because like the Lakers are on, like they start weird with something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, and they hear one laugh and it's me in the background like a hyena. It's like, why would you start like that? No, I feel like it's these light crowds and these bummed out crowds. If you can make them laugh, then you've done your job. It's just really hard work. So I like that's what makes you funny.
Do you do crowd work?
Yeah, but I'm starting to film it more, but I don't. Reels has ruined crowd work for me.
Really? I've said this before, and I like. How do you feel? I'm not gonna blow anyone up because there are a lot of people that it's a style of comedy. That's what a lot of people don't understand, especially people that don't do comedy, that just see comedy through like social media. Is that crowd work is a style of comedy, and it's a craft, and it's like you can be really good at it, but also they don't understand that people are posting crowd work so that they don't have to post material, and then they think that's what comedy is, or that everybody does it. But then the thing that always gets me is like I've seen like people do crowd work, like that's their thing, and it's like their style of comedy is doing crowd work, but they're writing their crowd work. Like they're doing the crowd work on the crowd.
Yeah, they're doing and then that because it's become a style forced upon us for reels and TikToks. It used to be like good crowd work. People are just like they won't film every set. They're like, I'm just gonna do crowd work for the love of doing crowd work. It's not content. Like crowd work comics film crowd work for content. They're content creators. They aren't necessarily natural crowd work comics.
Right.
Yeah. And the only issue with that is that the consistency of crowd work that are coming up in everybody's feed, there's a new audience coming. There's a new version of people coming to these shows that want they are more willing to heckle because that's what they see. They're already juiced up. They're like, well, I saw you talk to this person. Why can't I come to the show and talk? It's like, because it's not how this works. Just because you saw it on Reels, well, this person does the crowd work. Why can't you do it? It's like, well, then go to their fucking show.
Yeah.
But even I've seen I'm just gonna name his name, Phil Hanley out of New York. He was like having not issues, but there were like people wanting to be a part of the show because they see him on his Reels doing crowd work. And they just speak up like, hey, me. And I was like, that's what it's created. Instead of people being attentive, winning the laugh, they want to be a part of the show now.
Right.
It's a problem. But
yeah, and I feel like it happens a lot more the more social media becomes a viable resource for comedy. Like, I think it's come in waves. Like, one of the first waves was like in the 2010s when hecklers were becoming popular. Like, you saw all these guys making YouTube channels where all they posted was comedian destroys heckler, or heckler makes comedian blow up, and then that died down after a while because everyone else was like, that's not how it works. You're not supposed to interrupt.
Also, the thing is that either it happens so often that either you're inviting that or there's plants. Like, how are you the one person that is having so many hecklers?
Also show the for real like heckler destroys comedian, because there'll be times when you deal with a heckler and they don't show the comedian at home like all sad taking a shower. That guy really made me sad.
Heckler drives comedian to existential crisis.
To cry in the shower.
Heckler contemplate his life choices. Reconsider taking up that job with his in-laws.
But I mean, it's what you got. The unfortunate part is that it's what has to get done. Like you have to post content. You have to, in order to get people to come to these shows.
Yeah,
it's what sucks.
I'm starting to be willing to sacrifice material. I'm not that guy that wants to post material all the time, or even at all. I want to save it, but I'm like, you know what? Also, I've noticed some of the audience changing where they want to see those jokes.
They do.
The same ones.
Like songs, yeah,
like songs, and they want to see if they change, and see how much they change, or just exactly the way they heard it. Yeah, it's interesting.
I have the bit that when I first came out to LA and when I first started comedy, when I was heavier, the Selena bit, looking like the lady who killed Selena. I fucking hate that joke.
Really?
I hate that fucking joke.
I was about to.
No, I don't. It's fine. It's fine. It was my signature joke.
Internet?
It was my signature joke, but I have to to a point where it was requested.
Yeah,
I keep doing it over and over, and I don't do it. Like, you didn't do Selena. I'm like, it's because I have a, like I have other jokes I want to tell. I don't want to do that one.
Yeah.
And then if I post it again on my Instagram reels right now, there'll be some fucking cholo from the Inland Empire like, hey, this fool ain't got no other jokes. I was like, man, I can't win. You know? Like, I can't win. It's just it's a 8-year-old joke. I want it gone, and if I've sort of phased it out of, and I'll bring it out like if I'm doing like something very Mexican, I know it's gonna work. But then it's not in my set anymore. It's not. I appreciate the joke and its accuracies. That joke started at a roast in a green room. Some guy said I look like Yolanda, and I forgot how to say her last name. You look like Yolanda, and then no one laughed. And then I had to correct him. I was like, no one's know who that is. You have to say, I look like the lady who killed Selena.
Yeah.
And then it popped in the green room really hard. And I looked over at him. I was like, my joke? He was like, your joke.
Damn.
That's how that worked. Yeah.
Dude, those riff sessions are always so funny when like it's a bunch of comics that are like who like divvying up the lot like of who gets the bit. Like,
Yeah.
But that's kind of special because it's like I think a lot of times it's very fair.
Yeah.
Like comedians tend to be pretty fair about like that's your joke, even if I wrote it sometimes with them. Like it's not my voice.
I like talking shop though.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of comedians that are too cool for school. Like
Yeah.
I love punchlines, setups,
Yeah.
like tags. If you got something for me, let's go. If I got something for you, if you throw up an idea and then somebody comes up on top of you and hits it out of the park with a line, that's their joke.
Yeah.
We just set it up as hot potato. I love talking about it.
That makes me think of something I've always been curious about. Do you ever like this is open to the room, like claim a joke? You know what I mean? Like I hear a lot about people who are like once they vibe together, that's one of them will offer it up and admit like that's your joke. But have you ever done that in the reverse of like
Never.
Like for me, I've only done it twice, and it was a thing of like someone was legit like asking me to help them, and then I helped them like restructure the joke, rewrite the joke, to the point where
You wrote the joke?
Like most of the
It just
joke,
sounds like you wrote a joke for someone, then said, "No, that's actually my joke."
like same premise, same punchline, but the structure of the joke was almost completely different now. And here's why I claimed it afterwards: is like it's like ultimately we started with yours. I was doing this for you, but then they never did it how I wrote it for them. They always
That's
did
your
it their
joke.
own way. So I'm like,
Yeah,
fuck it,
It's your
I'm
joke.
gonna do it.
Yeah, it's your joke.
I've been in that situation. There's someone I used to write with somewhat often, and we riffed on something together, and he's like, "Oh, that like I'm gonna do that joke," and I was too much of a pushover back then. I was like, "All right, like I guess that's your joke," and he kind of would do it kind of sometimes and butcher it, and then like
Because he didn't write the joke.
he didn't write the
You
joke.
wrote the
I wrote the joke, and I was just like, I eventually like as a way of like breaking things off, like that's my joke. And like I took it back and never did it. I just wanted to take it back.
I took it back and then I threw it in
You
the
do
garbage.
it right. You don't do it at all.
It's like a breakup. I want my guitar back.
If somebody
Crush.
brings you the body of a Honda Civic and they go, "Hey man, can you fix this Honda Civic?" and you turn it into a truck, that's your truck, all right?
It's a weird truck, but it's yours.
It's a weird truck, but like that's a cool truck, you know? I don't know. I'm big on talking shop. So like in that, I thought in the context of like you guys were going over the joke and then you're like, that's actually my joke, but you didn't tell me about you wrote the joke for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I don't.
You did all the grunt work.
You guys ever ghostwrite for anybody?
That was probably the only time where that's what was like what we were attempting.
Yeah.
But they just never did it how I told them to. And after I was like, I'm not writing for you anymore.
Yeah.
I've never ghostwritten. I've punched someone's joke up, or I've you do the thing where you offer somebody tags, like kind of thing. But I've never actually like sat and like wrote material for someone else.
Have you ever had to call anybody that weird phone call like, "Hey, I heard you did my joke"? I've had to do that 3 times.
3 times.
3 times.
Really?
Yeah. It was weird.
Fucking sorry, my phone's going off. It's fucking
No, it's my phone.
Oh, okay.
It's my phone. I just want, here. Let me shut it off.
No. I thought it was mine, and it's like a bunch of fucking Pokemon Go notifications. So I'm like, not now.
No, mine's much more millennial. This is Facebook Messenger.
You ever get that reminder that they're gonna give you a reminder?
Yeah, I do.
They'll be like, in 2 hours, we're gonna tell you about an alarm you set.
Yeah, I've had to call people a couple times where it's like, "Hey, I heard you did Selena." And it's like, we've done shows together.
Right.
I'm not saying it's like the most original joke in the world or whatever, but I kind of look like her and you don't. On account of, and you've seen we've been on shows together. And like, I've had to message people. It sucks. It's a weird thing that I don't want to have to babysit you and your hackery. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. You have to take jokes because they knew they were my jokes, but maybe I have a pushoverable face. Maybe like this guy, but I'm gonna tell you.
It's like that Air Bud movie where you have to let the dog decide who's the real owner. You're like, let's both tell the joke and let's see who the audience chooses.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's usually gonna be the one that like fed the dog better. You know? Like, the dog's gonna choose that.
I've only had one instance where I've had somebody tell the same joke, but I knew it was like what is it called? Like interpolation, parallel thinking, whatever. But it's like I knew that there's like no way that she would. I mean, it's like a 0.5% chance that like she saw me do the joke and like tried to do it her way. But it was a joke about dream. Like nobody wants to hear about dreams, so. The version that she told, nobody wants to hear about dreams, but they'll listen to your drug stories.
Yeah.
So I just tell people that I was tripping when I'm actually talking about my dreams. And so she said the same joke, but I was like, she did it. It was like parallel thinking where it's like everything was the same except the actual material. It was just like the same ideas.
That's crazy.
But then it's like, what do you do with that?
I had a buddy. Yeah, I don't know what you do with that. Like, you sort of accept that parallel thinking is what happens. It's going to happen, especially as your universe as a comedian gets bigger, as you start expanding out into more outside of your own scene, and then even like I'm going to the East Coast in like 2 weeks, and like if I hear a joke that I've written from someone else and we've never interacted, that's good.
Yeah,
we both came to the same conclusion. You know?
Yeah.
I've had a guy, one of my buddies from back home. He wrote a Chappelle joke before Chappelle even he hadn't seen the special. It was one of the Michael Jackson jokes about like the pedophile ones. Mm-hmm. Like he wrote it. It was so funny and it was crushing in places where it shouldn't have been crushing, like in these conservative towns. He was doing so good. And then the Chappelle special came out, and if he'd have done the way his jokes, the way he was doing them, it would have looked like he stole it from Chappelle. Right. So I called him and I was like, man, R.I.P. You're sorry, dude. And he was so pissed, dude. He was like, what the fuck do you do there? I was like, you dropped a joke. Yeah, you just dropped it. That's Dave's now.
That's go ahead. Sorry, that's so funny because I almost dropped a joke once because somebody was telling a very identical joke, and it was about Albert Einstein, and it was technically a different premise, but it was the exact same punchline, and it was using like facts that I had told about Einstein. And so I was gonna drop the joke because it wasn't working for me anyway. Like they stole in my head. I'm like, either it's a complete coincidence or they stole one of my bad jokes. Yeah.
How fun is that for them to steal the crumbs you don't even want?
Right? Like they stole the shitty ones. But the funniest part about it was one of the facts I made up for the joke, and then it turned out to be true. So I was like, now I can't tell if they stole it or not. But then it inspired me to completely rewrite the joke instead, and now it does like way better.
Good. That's so funny that you did that thing that textbooks do where they'll misprint things to see if someone's making fake copies of textbooks to sell. Yeah. You're like,
but then it turns out to be correct. Like, what the fuck?
I had a situation where I had a joke go viral on TikTok. Yeah. And then people thought that I stole it from George Lopez. But I was like, it's not the same joke. It's like, it's a thing. I have to like, I preface it by saying like, hey, I'm a comedian, so I think that these are...
No, I'm like my shirt's sticking to my back.
I'm a comedian, so I think differently about these jokes. But so like the joke is like, my dad used to call me Nintendo because I didn't speak Spanish. Okay. Which I was like, that was true, and like that comes from like growing up Mexican during a specific time period where I feel like a lot of people use this Nintendo joke. Because it's like, you know, it's a joke that I use in a set it's an icebreaker for the audience of like the same thing as like how you kind of do the Yolanda bit. It's like this is what you use to introduce yourself to the audience to get them on your side, right?
Yeah.
So like I was doing that, and then a bunch of people were like, "Oh, this fool stole this from George Lopez," but it's like the thing is like George Lopez uses Nintendo as like not even a tag, like it's like a part.
No Nintendo, like that. No,
He does
Nintendo.
that,
No
yeah.
Nintendo.
But he does it as like a line that someone else says or whatever. Anyway, I was like, I'm keeping the fucking joke. George Lopez is gonna be fine. Like,
yeah.
I need this joke more than he does.
Yeah, no.
I thought you were, for some reason, I thought you were talking about the Joker thing with the.
Oh, we had a riff on Isimo where we were talking about how Batman's Mexican, because of like, and all the villains are Cholo names, and then
That's funny.
That's
about like the Penguin and Joker and stuff like that.
That is very funny.
And then people were like, "You stole that from Fluffy." And it's like, we don't watch Fluffy.
I hate to break
but
it
it's
to
also
you.
like, this joke is older than Fluffy. Like every drunk uncle has made the same joke about little Joker.
You're going to have, because it's the internet.
Yeah.
Like regardless of whether you've seen George or seen Fluffy do these things, and if you come to those parallel thoughts on your own without being that material in front of you, it is what it is. I'm glad you came to the same conclusion that Gabriel came to without even watching him. Like
Right.
people
Yeah.
can't, but people can't accept that. What do you mean you haven't seen? What
Right,
do you mean you
right.
haven't? It's like people haven't seen things. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Not everybody likes what you like.
I got hit with TikTok. Some guy, I don't even know why I let it bother me. I was like, the guy's like a old white grandpa. Why is it bothering me? He's like, you stole that from Ron White. I stole a joke about a DUI situation about a guy making me do the field sobriety test. So I was like, nah, I'm not going through your Navy SEAL test. It's like he's like I can't do that sober. So that, and he's like, you stole that from Ron White. And I was like, no, I didn't. It's my own original joke. A month later, this guy responds to what he said. He goes, hey man, I'm sorry, I was drunk. What the fuck? You could have. Oh boy, he's apologizing for. He's like, yeah, you're right. It's not the same joke. I'm sorry, I was drunk that night. You could have said nothing.
That reminds me. So once in a while, when one of my jokes goes viral, people start accusing me of stealing it.
Yeah.
But the funniest one is my absolute most popular joke. The last time I posted it, someone's like, you 100% stole this. I know I've heard this before. And it was like, if you can find the original audio, I will concede. But the story I tell in this joke actually happened to me.
Yeah.
So like, even if it's the same joke. And then like a week later, they were like, it was an older clip of you.
They were like,
Why'd you steal it from you?
I like to play that game on the internet when people say wild shit like that. It's just like, are they drunk or are they a teenager? Yeah. Like
Either way,
you
feed
gotta-
into it
Yeah.
because it's social media.
Yeah.
Good comments, bad comments, it just drives more traffic towards that joke. I hate to be businessman about it, but I kind of want all the smoke. Please come in and call me shitty. That'd be great. Because then I'll respond back with, oh, what do you think? And then you write another paragraph. I go, oh, that's wild. It's great because it just drives
You're
the
a
algorithm.
social media manager now.
That's all. That's all it is. Whether it's good or bad. If it's good, thank you. If it's bad, oh, why?
One time I
Shit.
kept a guy going just by replying, nuh-uh. Like
Yes!
every
You're playing social media correctly. Because it's real, but it's not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
do you do how much traveling have you done as a comic?
Up and down. Like, the furthest I've ever gone is to Montana. But that's when I first started doing comedy. Some like conservative cowboy comic is like, you're a funny Mexican. And I'll go, uh-huh. And then I wanted to do work for anybody, but like me and one of my best friends, we went to Montana with this guy's small town thing. It's the furthest I've gone is Phillipsburg, Montana. It was
Wow.
like 20 hours. It was terrible to drive. But up to Oregon, Nevada, all over California, from north all the way down to San Diego, like all over, like from Eureka. Like one of my favorite clubs in Eureka is Savage Henry. That's a great club. All the way down to San Diego. But that's about as far. I'm going to the East Coast in 2 weeks for the first time.
Oh, hell
That's
yeah.
so cool.
So yeah, I'm so
Ever?
excited. Ever, bro. I've never been in New York. I just got my passport a week ago.
That's a cool
I know,
way
I
to
seen
like
it again,
explore the East Coast is through comedy.
Yeah, through comedy. It's gonna be hell. It's gonna because
Yeah.
I the way I set it up is gonna be hell with the flights and having to take trains and shit.
Oh, sure.
But it's gonna be fun.
That's so wild because it's like you definitely always struck me as like a road comic.
I'm a road comic. The thing is like how big California and Nevada is.
Right, that's true.
You can make a living off of just this circuit. If you go to the dive bar scene and to the Latin scene and to the black scene, like you can make money. You can pay your bills just doing that.
So you were talking earlier about like appealing to a wider audience, and not to say that you have to narrow your appeal, but like we were talking to Felipe Esparza when he was on, and he was saying how like some like comic that was trying to mentor him was like, you gotta don't talk about Mexican shit because you have to appeal to everybody. And Felipe was like, he looks out at the audience and he's like, there's no white people, it's only Mexicans here.
Yeah.
Like, you know. And they're selling out. So, like, he's making a living. Like, is that kind of how you feel? Not that you're like, oh, I'm trying to appeal to Latinos, but it's like,
I'm trying to be myself while being Latino. That's, because I'm Latino, but I'm also trying to be myself. I grew up loving George. I grew up loving the guys like, orale, like they're in your face and they're a specific type and they do impressions of Mexicans. Like, that'll come out sometimes. But I'm also trying to not steer my way into just being Mexican. So I guess that's just who I am. I like talking about it and bringing it up. And whoever shows up. But who's been showing up is Mexican. It's because I'm Mexican, and I appreciate that. But I guess appealing to a general audience of just by being yourself, the general audience will come.
Right.
Yeah, they will come. And if that general audience, for me, will be Mexican.
So that was a choice for you to, like, I'm going to talk about, like, Latino shit. Like...
Yeah, but like the way I want to talk about it, like lately I've just been I have a joke about Taco Bell and like we're not allowed to eat it, or at least I wasn't. Like people look down upon me because I was my dad was an illegal immigrant. It's like, why are you eating Taco Bell? Like I talk about shit like that, and like I just random shit like how I sound. I talk about the flea market a lot. I'm a flea market kid, man. I'm a swap meet kid.
Swap meet, hell yeah.
I talk about that a lot. So. But then there's also shit I don't want to necessarily talk because I grew up on cartoons, so you're gonna have a specific voice on that. That's really what raised me. So it's like a lot of Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy. Mm-hmm. So that's like a lot of the English and vocabulary that I learned was speaking Spanish and Spanglish to my family and going back to like Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
So there's this particular crowd of people that I hang out with, and it's not like hella Mexican people. It's like whitewashed Mexicans and white kids.
I just imagine, because Ren is supposed to be like you, so I just imagine like, Father, you idiot.
Taco Bell is delicious.
That's the voice you develop.
It ends up happening like that, man. Yeah, I think that. And on top of like my mom was deaf, so like I have a particular volume. Mexicans are going to teach each other sign language. So the only thing we had to adjust with is how loud we were. So I remember many times in growing up, I'd be in a library and people would tell me to shut up. Like, tell me, keep your voice down. I was like, no, I'm at my mom level right now because my mom is deaf. But yeah, man, I grew up watching cartoons and shit. So I have a particular set. I don't know. How you guys feel like your Mexicanness is in question ever?
All the time.
Constantly. It drove us to create an entire show.
You know that from what I understand, as soon as you get to a specific age, you realize that is all in your head.
No, 100%.
And it's a lot in other people's heads too.
And
that's why they're
heads.
doing
They share it with us.
That's why you do it.
We
yeah.
talk a lot about the
then we're sad.
ideal. We talk a lot about the ideal Latino. Like there's this like secret, like there's out there somewhere. Oh no. Out there somewhere in the world, there's like the most Mexican fool ever, you know. But he's like the right skin tone. He speaks Spanish. He fucking like does everything right. It's like a mythological creature, you know. Like
I don't know why I started picturing the Mexican Gundam robot.
That fool's hard as fuck.
That fool is hard as fuck. And it comes down to everything of like my dad teasing me for being, and it was just with food because I don't like nopales and I don't like menudo, and my dad would be like, pinche güero, cabrón. I'm like, fuck, man. What are you talking about? I just don't. They're gross. They're slimy. He's like, nah, Mexicans eat slimy. I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's just what makes you be Mexican is to like two particular things.
to just like slimy things.
But I used to be more like that. But now I eat nopales a menudo. But it's also like but I'm also just being like owning other parts that aren't accepted as Latino because like I'm kind of soft.
Yeah.
I'm like sensitive, and I'm like I can be tough in my own way. I work a blue collar job for 13 years. I can be tough, but it's like now like you were saying, it's all in your head. Now I don't feel compelled to like perform to be enough because like I've had coworkers that like you're not Mexican, you're not Mexican, you're not Mexican, and then eventually his brother was like, you were born here, I'm Mexican. And he was like, hey, shut up. Like, I was like, oh, this whole time, I was younger. I was like, this whole time, this is about you.
Yeah.
And your insecurity about not being Mexican enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely understand. You're not Mexican. You're not Mexican. It always feels like, and you don't speak that much Spanish, right? You guys, you don't speak that much Spanish.
I speak
a little bit.
I speak
like there's words that in passing
pretty
I'll
casual.
understand, but I
But
can't.
you've developed the personalities you've developed. There's
Right.
a guy that will be on that Mexican rah-rah train, but then they don't speak Spanish. They'll like shit on me for not being or looking a particular way, and then I'll be like, "Órale, compa, ¿por qué?" And then I go right into Spanish, and they'll go, "That doesn't mean anything." I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean? That doesn't mean that's the language? Does it make me Mexican? Go fuck yourself."
I like that. Like he didn't think he'd be called. He's like, you're making that up.
I just wanted to say, like, yeah, that's a big part of like why we do. I think for me, about the whole identity about it, because like you're right, it is all in your head, and you don't have to live up to things. I think for me, the reason why we do this show and like think about these things is because like there's a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, because like we grew up not speaking Spanish, and I think growing up there was a lot of boundaries I put up to like learning the language and to listening to certain types of music and to liking certain types of shows or clothes or food or whatever
like your dad
it is.
At all? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we grew up separated, but like we got along. But it's, I think for me, it was like when I reached the age of like, that's all in your head, is when I realized how much I kind of cut myself off growing up from the culture.
Exactly.
So now it's like I'm on the same thing where it's like most of the music I listen to now is like all Mexican or Latino, like Latin,
trying to catch
Spanish.
up.
Yeah, trying to find, and it's so funny because it's all new to me. I have such like an eclectic like playlist, and I'll be playing it for some people, and like this is some bite-sized shit, dude. Like, what are you listening to? Like, this is what my fucking Theos listen to. I'm like, this shit rips, dog.
You start
like,
to appreciate it like jazz. I'll be
Yeah.
People be listening to jazz. I'll be listening to fucking ranchera music in the car. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. You hear that shit?
There's a song called Bailame by Los Tigrillos that it's just straight up banda, like, but it fucking rips. I'm like, I was talking to a friend. I was like, can you believe somebody wrote this song? Like, can you believe like how good this is? And it's just like straight up just like party music, like.
And that's just you being Mexican, because if you were just a white dude, you'd be a hipster. You know what I mean? Like, you just put on banda music, wearing tapatio shirts. You're like, nah, this is my culture, all right?
Instead of being able to identify like elevator music, you identify like when you're at the swap meet, and it's like your favorite banderia song.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, man. The East Coast. I'm doing June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd. I'm doing June 1st. I'm doing City Winery Boston. June 2nd, City Winery Philadelphia, and then June 3rd, City Winery New York.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. If there are any Mexicans in those, I don't know if there are. If there's any hidden Mexicans in Boston, then they'd be wild of fucking Mexican.
Come out of hiding.
A Southie. Welcome from Mexican. We're out here, Boston. Like, that'd be great. I want to meet that person.
Wicked smile.
How do you like these manzanas?
Yeah, I also got a podcast too. It's called Dogs of Browntown. I do that with Joel Jimenez and Hormos Rashidi. It's essentially this.
Hell yeah. I love it.
Yeah, and
We just had Joel on.
And then This Week in Crime. I do that with Steve Fury. We read weird crimes and we roast it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But yeah,
fun.
outside of that, Saul Comedy on my website and Instagram.
Sick. Do you have?
Well, if you've made it this far, thank you, and let us know in the comments. What's a good one for this one?
You're supposed to be thinking about it.
I've
this
been
entire
thinking
time.
about it. I'll be honest with you. Okay, what's a song that to you is like the best? Like that reminds you of the swap meet.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good one.
Everyone liked it, but Dominic. Fuck you.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. Let us know in the comments.
So much.
from us, Ser un Poquito. Don't